it goes. Quintana has attacked. This is the first big move. We've been waiting for this. The phony war is over, and now the GC contenders have decided to pull the trigger in a big way. 5 kilometers to go, and Nairo Quintana says, well, this is like a training ride. I can go quicker than this. Is anyone going to come with me? Well, at the moment, no. And he's got a significant advantage. Looked as if Rigoberto Urán thought about trying to react to that one. His body's all over the road. Everyone's looking around, trying to make a decision. What do they do at this moment as the Tinkoff Saxo go on the attack? I think that's Contador, actually. That could well be. Is it Kreuziger?
It looks like it's Contador with that peak cap. An absolutely incendiary attack there by Nairo Quintana. The little
Nibali's cracked. Nibali's out the back. Vincenzo Nibali. Apologies, Matt, but it's all getting very exciting indeed. And some significant riders are starting to struggle. Looked like Visconti just sitting ahead of him for Movistar, but for Nibali, not got the form. And he had hinted at that, so he has allowed Scarponi to try and see what he can do about hanging on. At the moment, I don't think he's got much chance at all, because, well, big contenders, Urán is making his way across to Nairo Quintana with the benefit of the big effort from Alberto Contador. And other riders starting to ride back up. Is that Pozzovivo? I think it could well be for AG Tour Le Mondial. So it's Nairo Quintana that has that, well, bit of a gap there. And I'll tell you what, Alberto Contador closed it down pretty quickly and then didn't quite get there, and everyone else is looking around saying, well, you did a great job, Bertie, please continue to do that. But they don't want to throttle back here, because Quintana is just going to go, and he's re-establishing some of that gap. Thibaut Pinot realizes the danger. Urán goes on his wheel. He's all about saving it for as long as possible.
Looks like Adam Yates also there, sat in the middle. He's just in front of Volker Mollema in the black and white. There's Alberto Contador, Pozzovivo, and also one of the riders from Katusha has managed to infiltrate that move. Doesn't look like it's Rodriguez. Looks like it could be Caruso.
Well, but still out front, Michele Scarponi, looking ever more laboured in comparison with the efforts of the riders behind. Scarponi, 4 kilometres to go. Has a little look over his shoulder, perhaps the first time that we've seen. And Quintana now racing clear. First on the road is Michele Scarponi. Behind him, and shortly to pick him up, is Nairo Quintana of Movistar. The overall race leader, Wout Poels, has managed to get back into this chase group, but here it comes, the big attacks again coming from Alberto Contador as he tries to put a little bit of distance between himself and the group behind. He's not happy with them all sitting in and benefiting from his efforts to get back on terms with Quintana, but they all need to work together. At least they need to maintain a steady tempo, I think, if they're going to get back to the flying Colombian.
I don't think Alberto Contador has plans to work with any of these riders. He's just going to keep bludgeoning them with attack after attack until he can break the elastic, but to close down very well, very quickly there by Pozzovivo. He's looking pretty good, but now it's Thibaut Pinot from France wearing the under 25 jersey. Best young rider going alone to see if he can try and bridge the gap to a flying Colombian. But meanwhile, 26 seconds for ahead of the race.
Well, significantly, that's 12 seconds that Nairo Quintana has put between himself and Alberto Contador et al. And the neutral service has to almost drive off the side of the hill, because Quintana was right up to the bumper and just about around. Has a little look over his shoulder. And now the leader of the stage is Nairo Quintana. His situation going into today's stage, Nairo Quintana 34 seconds back on overall from Wout Poels. And now they start to hit the snow. They'll feel that on their face, and it'll be making them blink a little bit more. There's not too many riders back there are blinking. Here comes Thibaut Pinot. He's always in attack mode, isn't he? He's willing to have a go.
It's so great to see the French riders attacking. I mean, we saw yesterday from AG2I Villermoz. Remember, that rider was 11th in the Giro last year, so some real good French climbers coming through. But at the moment, it's all about this man, the 25-year-old Colombian, Giro d'Italia champion. He loves these roads. He's had an unfortunate start to the season, but he's certainly making amends at the moment. What a rhythm he's setting. And again, another attack by Alberto Contador, out of the saddle, levering the big gear, closed down by Pozzovivo, closely checked by Rigoberto around Volker Mollema, and Adam Yates also there, looking remarkably smooth, is the young Englishman. What can Contador do? As I said, he doesn't want to work with these riders. He wants to leave them behind. But at the moment, he's not managing to do so. And again,
here comes Pinot again. He's relentless, isn't he? He really is an attacking rider. And it's the old 1-2 between them. Contador will attack. Pinot will have a go. is this making any inroads on Nairo Quintana, because they haven't managed to mop up Scarponi yet. Scarponi's still hanging on in between. A significant gap between them, and I would suggest it's well over 20 seconds now to the leader out front as they slow to a crawl again. Now it's Rigoberto Urán. It's his first attack. He's had enough of closing gaps and sitting on wheels. Now he realizes that the race is heading up the road and they're going to lose this, and they're going to lose it potentially overall. Remember, there's a time trial. The final stage is a 10-kilometer time trial, so opportunities perhaps for some of these riders to claw a bit of time back on Nairo Quintana. We went very well in that finishing time trial 12 months ago. So, well, will Quintana be contained?
Now goes. I mean, that group, this stop-start has brought a few other riders back into contention, including a Roman Kreuziger. We see him go onto the front to work for Alberto Contador. But because of the indecisiveness of that group as a collective, Bauke Mollema has taken his opportunity to try and bridge across the gap to this little Colombian, battling the elements, takes a glance over his shoulder. Remember, he needs to try and bring back 34 seconds and also 10, 6 and 4 on the line, the time bonuses. But some great action here today.
Great opportunity for Quintana now as he narrows his view to try and reduce the amount of snow that is getting into his eyes. Laboured pedal strokes from Michele Scarponi. Busy style from Bauke Mollema. He's all over the bike, but he's really got a hell of a rhythm going there at the moment. Can he sustain this for the remaining 2.5 kilometres? It does. The gradient does ease a little bit inside that last kilometre, as now Astana try and organise things. Is that Kreuziger on the front?
It's Kreuziger again. Yeah, Tinkoff. He was dropped, he was distanced, but has come back to the front in that really, I don't know, that strong kind of style he has. He's not pretty, but he's certainly effective, trying to claw back the gap. But Quintana looking imperious at the moment.
Yeah, has a little look around, and what does he see? Well, he doesn't see any cyclists because they're out of sight at the moment. And now just has to put the head down and think about extracting the maximum out of himself, because he's racing potentially towards the overall lead of this race. Wet Bowles, has he managed to make it back to those riders? Looked as if that stall was likely to have brought a lot of those riders back into contention behind, but still he needs to see, can he find something. Bauke Mollema now puts Michele Scarponi behind him, and who's that coming out? It's Adam Yates. It's Adam Yates. Immense performance from the Orica Green Edge rider. The British rider clearly feels that he's got great form and is covered by Alberto Contador. Domenico Pozzovivo, is it? From AG Tour Le Mondial, I do believe it is. The diminutive climber from AG Tour Le Mondial, and Alberto Contador on his. Contador now sitting on the wheel of the young Englishman from Orica Green Edge. Sitting 10th overall, 32 seconds back, so he's only got 2 seconds advantage on Nairo Quintana going into this stage. Is he going to put enough time into him in the time trial on Tuesday? Is that what he's thinking at the moment? There doesn't seem to be a whole lot that he can do about Quintana's ability to go up a hill at the moment.
Quintana looking very, very smooth. Contador finally has broken free. He's shutting the gap. We have the position on the road. Bauke Mollema with 2 kilometres to go, trying to get across that gap. That really busy style he has, but looking pretty strong at the moment. And then behind him, a couple of 100 metres, we have Adam Yates. And then we have the Frenchman. It looks like Alberto Contador just caught him.
Contador just sits on the wheel, lets a little bit of a gap go, puts it in the gear, and Pino is alive to that danger. Says thanks very much for that bit of a dig, Mr. Yates, and now I'll try and see if I can see you off. But Yates has managed to tag back on, so now we have a group of 4.
This is absolutely fantastic. Look at the atmosphere here, riding through the slow line, through a blizzard. 1.8 k's to go. The Nairo Quintana fighting the elements. Lovely style on a bike, sat forward on the saddle. Looks like one of the climbers of old. Luis Herrera, his fellow countryman, has won on this climb about 20 years ago. As we see the great split screen here, Bauke Mollema out of the saddle, trying to fight the gradient. This is going to be touch and go at the finish. It's
a very impressive effort from Bauke Mollema. He's really giving it absolutely everything, and he's holding off some of the best general classification stage race riders in the World Tour at the moment. But there's nothing he can do about the reigning champion of Giro d'Italia. Won that in emphatic style 12 months ago. Second in the Tour de France the year before that. What a contender he'll be for Tour honours this year. Nairo Quintana, he's putting the frighteners on the mall at the moment. Thibaut Pinot now gives a bit of a turn. Alberto Contador just sits in the wheel, not thinking about an attack. Will one come from Adam Yates? That might have softened his cough a little bit. The effort to try and get back into the wheel after Contador's attack. Quintana goes again out of the saddle. He knows that every time he sits in the saddle, the cadence drops, and he needs to try and keep on top of that gear. He doesn't want to go further up the block.
This is a really interesting situation with Mollema closing, but what a danger for the Tour de France Nairo Quintana will be. If you look at Nairo Quintana's race program, he's actually riding Dwars d'Ors Vlaanderen, then E3 Harelbeke, going to have a taste of the pavé before going on to the Vuelta a Pays Vasco, and then the Ardennes Classics, and then the Suisse and the Tour de France.
That's a real all-rounder, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing the Little Columbia bouncing over the cobbles. But back to today, Alberto Contador forcing the pace still.
And he doesn't want to do it. He wants to attack, but it was almost he got out of the saddle and wasn't able to sustain any sort of an effort. Visibility is reducing fast. I hope we retain pictures through to the remaining 1,200 meters, because Nairo Quintana is putting on an epic display in Tirreno Adriatico today. 26 seconds advantage plus the 10. Surely he's racing into blue.
No sign at the moment of the race leader, unfortunately, of Wout Poels. Is in that chasing group. It doesn't look like it is. And again, Thibaut Pinot goes to the front, looks over the saddle. He's not getting any help. But what a ride here by the rider from the Netherlands. Bauke Mollema, remember, lying in 7th position at only 28 seconds. He's riding himself right up the general classification. But for Nairo Quintana, 900 meters to go. Yeah,
26 seconds is Mollema. So what's the gap to the group behind? Inside the final kilometre, and inside the final kilometre for Nairo Quintana, as Thibaut Pinot flicks the elbow as if to say, come on, it's not just me, we need the rest of you to make the effort.
Quintana
sitting on the point of the saddle, yeah.
Continues with that rhythm. This is where you've got to be really careful not to get out the saddle too violently. You're going to slip all over the place. So sit down, keep the rhythm. But he's certainly doing that very well. He's got the neutral service car there, indicating the gap to Mollema is at least 30 seconds. And this is where the gradient lessens a little bit before flattening out to the finish.
And now the grip is significantly less, and we're not going to see Nairo Quintana getting out of the saddle again. I think he's going to just tiptoe his way to the finish line, but he has the advantage that he needs. He just needs to retain what he's got. The surf as well, he does get out of the saddle there because surf is not quite as bad. It doesn't seem to be too bad under wheel at the moment at all. So that's good news for Nairo Quintana. He's able to pile on the pressure, pile on the watts, and he's taken himself inside the last few hundred meters of this climb. Bauke Mollema, no sign of a let-up in the effort that he's able to sustain. So clearly Bauke Mollema is in absolutely fine form indeed.
He certainly is. And behind it looks like Rigoberto Urán has now joined the party. Will he do anything to bring back his fellow countrymen, but obviously not riding on the same team? Heading into the finish straight, this Declan's going to be very interesting with the sprint out for second place. Inside
the final 300 metres for Nairo Quintana. He's just 25 years of age and he already has a mouth-watering and a wonderfully impressive palmarès. He's racing towards stage glory in Tirreno Adriatico 2015. Is he also racing into the leader's blue jersey? That's what we believe. It's been an absolutely perfect performance. Everyone was looking around themselves and Quintana said, this is not the pace that I need to be going up this hill at. He pulled the trigger first and he's the one that gets the victory. Nairo Quintana gets his hands in the air and takes stage victory in Tirreno Adriatico, and with it potentially the overall race lead. The clock ticks now and we wait to see who's going to be next through the mist. Of course it's likely to be Bauke Mollema, who's inside the final 300 metres. Well, how has he managed to peg back Nairo Quintana? Has he minimised the deficit? No question but that he's going to be quite a bit behind Nairo Quintana on overall. Has he raced into second position? Every chance he has. And what's going to happen in the time trial on Tuesday, because that's the next big rendezvous for these general classification contenders. Bauke Mollema rides it all the way to the line. Great effort from the Dutchman and a great signing for Trek Factory Racing.
That was great to see. It's not very often you see a rider riding through virgin snow to the finish line. Who's going to be third? Looks like one of the riders. It's actually going to be Joaquin Rodriguez.
Whoa, where did he come from? Rodriguez managed to just drag himself back to the group and comes up with third place on the line. So another good result for Rodriguez. Another third place 2 days in a row. As that might be Niemiec. not 100% sure. Tough to pick them out through the snow flurry.
Cummings there as well. Good ride from him. Kreuziger just crosses the line. So Steve Cummings still in contention. Great ride from the Brit there.
And he's a hell of a tester.
He certainly is.
So Steve Cummings is still very much in contention for a podium position. Perhaps even, dare we suggest it, the overall. But Steve Cummings is doing wonderful work for MTN Quebec this week.
That was Caruso, Gianpaolo Caruso just crossing the line. Look at the conditions here. The rides are going to need to... There's Mikel Nieve crossing the line.
The overall race leader, Wout Poels, finally makes it across the line. I made that about 1 minute and 39 seconds back. 1:38 maybe, if they're being generous.
We're definitely going to have a new race leader today. The shame for Wout Poels, but he did fight valiantly. His team certainly rode well, but it just wasn't to be.
Alberto Contador gives his assessment. Won't be long standing there though, will he? Riders making their way up the hill in ones and twos. There's Vincenzo Nibali finally crossing the line, 2 minutes and 16 seconds in arrears. So a disappointing afternoon for Nibali. The form not quite there yet. He'll play himself in and think more about other races later in the season.
Alberto Contador isn't going to want to hang around too long.
What's his assessment of that stage going to be, do you think?
Be interesting. He didn't have it. He just at the moment he drifted back when he swung over and looked as if he was not feeling too good. That was the point that Nairo Quintana launched that scintillating attack.
So they're all just about making it to the top of this hill, and great that the weather arrived as late as it did. Welcome back to Terminillo, the finish line, where this man, Nairo Quintana, has announced that he's back in Europe and absolutely flying. Stunning performance. He's taken stage honours, and with it the overall race lead in Tirreno Adriatico. Superb performance from Bauke Mollema. Not quite equal to the great Colombian, but put everyone else behind him, including some of the best big-time stage racers in world cycling. Mollema's wintered well.
Yeah, Track Factory Racing, be very pleased with him. Another late surge to get a couple of time bonuses there from Rodriguez, Uran, Contador, Pozzovivo, and also Adam Yates in the mix.
Great ride by Adam Yates.
Fantastic ride. He has such a future as we look at the stage results here.
There's confirmation. Nairo Quintana takes the stage by 41 seconds from Bauke Mollema. 55 seconds further back from Quintana was Joaquim Rodriguez, Rigoberto Uran, Contador, Pino, Adam Yates and Pozzovivo all in the group, and Niemiec from Lampre next up ahead of Caruso. Everybody suffered in the snow on the road to Terminillo this afternoon. The one who suffered least, though, was Nairo Quintana, you would appear. Here's the overall standings and confirmation that Bauke Mollema now sits 39 seconds behind Nairo Quintana, your overall race leader. Uran, Pino, Contador, Yates now sitting 6th overall. Cummings, look at that, 112 back in 9th.
A raggiungere la zona premiazione si apprestano quindi a quello che sarà il momento più emozionante di questa giornata, una giornata che di emozioni ce ne ha regalate tante, una giornata che si è aperta nel... Signore e signori, è ora il... È lui il padrone della classifica generale, questo al comando ancora della clasifica,
Todo el día estuvo muy rápido, un poco difícil, con mucho frío, pero gracias a mi equipo que siempre estuvo cerca de mí, ayudándome, pude llegar a la última subida con fuerza y poder un poco jugar una táctica para hacer el ataque final. Y bueno, cuando veía que me sentía bien, he hecho el ataque y he visto que no me seguían y he ido fuerte hasta la llegada.
Il capo di quello che era il controllore in 5 di 16 per dopo su volta. Quindi questa abbiamo un ciclo fisiologico veramente ha fatto dei risorsi verdi ai protagonisti. Quindi questa chiusa in questo momento